What in the world's going on? Todd Archer, George Pickens has not, I repeat, not yet signed the franchise tag tender for the Cowboys. Remember, on Thursday, right before the draft, Schefter reported that Pickens was expected to sign it. And all of us, I can tell you right now, sitting on the set, immediately perked up. Oh my goodness, why is he going to sign it right now? It can't be a coincidence, the timing. This is an opportunity for a trade. Probably not a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick. Cowboys need help on defense. All of a sudden, he hasn't signed it yet. Dan Graziano, my insider extraordinaire, is this something or nothing?
It's not something yet. At this point, I think Todd is putting this out there because Todd was hearing a lot of discussion that indicated that he had signed it, and I think he just wanted to clarify that he hasn't. There's still an expectation in that building that he will. The key thing to understand about the George Pickens situation, is he going to play on the franchise tag, is the answer might still be yes. We have not heard from the player. A year ago, it was a Micah Parsons situation, and Micah, God bless him, like he lets us know everything he's thinking.
Yes.
We haven't heard anything from George Pickens, and it's one of the possible outcomes here is that he was told by the Cowboys it's franchise tag or nothing, and he goes, okay, fine, I'll show up and I'll show him. So until such time as we see him, we're free to speculate, but the expectation right now is still that he shows up and plays on the tag.
What we need is for Micah Parsons to book George Pickens on his podcast so we can get to the bottom of this. But bottom line, you're a general manager. You've lived in all of this. The draft has come and gone. So the trading of Pickens, whereas there may have been some urgency to get it done before the draft if there was something you wanted to do, now if what we're looking at is compensation in next year's draft or whatever the case may be, we're in no rush.
There is a sense of urgency from this standpoint. If you're a team that needs a receiver, so the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Rams, and you feel like you got to go get a receiver on a one-year deal, you want George Pickens as soon as possible to get in the offseason program. He cannot be traded until he signs the tender.
Right.
That is the most important thing here. Until he signs that franchise tag, nothing can happen. Now, I believe he will sign it because he's not going to want to miss a paycheck. There's some other minor issues that once he signs it, he could be fined for missing mandatory minicamp or training camp. But the headlines are, until he signs this tender, Greeny, nothing can happen. And if I'm a team that's considering trading for him, there is more value the sooner I get him in the building.
And the bottom line, Hawk, you're my receiver. George Pickens, we all saw what a dynamic season he had last year. Cowboys are suddenly, with all the improvements they made on defense in this draft, do you think the Cowboys should trade George Pickens?
I don't think the Cowboys should trade George Pickens. I think you work to get a deal done. If I'm George Pickens, I sign the tender because he's about halfway through this kind of, reclamation process. And for him, it's building your reputation, showing everybody you can both handle a payday and handle the load that came with Dallas Cowboys. And he did that phenomenally. One more year, he will be the highest paid receiver in football. Now, if they can get a deal done this year, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I absolutely think they do so. They made a lot of improvements on defense. But for me, the catalyst is if George Pickens is in this lineup or not, because that offense last year is the reason why there's so much hope in Dallas.
So to be clear, what you're saying is sign the tender, play 1 year on the franchise tag, which is still a lot of money for 1 year. Show everybody that this 1 year was not a fluke. You're not a one-hit wonder, if you will.
Right.
And then next year, you're in the Jamar Chase neighborhood.
Absolutely. I think that's the best course of action for George Pickens right now. That's really what the Cowboys have laid out for him. They feel like this is the appropriate way to handle the situation, and I think their expectation is that he will. They do not want to trade him. And, we go back to Micah. Micah forced their hand. If George Pickens wanted to have an offseason like Micah had last year and force a trade, we know the playbook, but right now we don't know for a fact that he will.
And Greeny, if I'm Dallas, I am not worried about George Pickens missing games. There's just too much. It's over $1 million a week, so I think he'll be there. Now, the risk is if he misses training camp, soft tissue injuries for the skill players always on the table, but I don't think he'll miss games.
Okay, so that's one of the headlines in the NFL. It remains a very busy time.
Following a developing story here on SportsCenter this morning where the NCAA is investigating Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby for alleged gambling on college football and other sports, including his own team's games when he played for Indiana in 2022 as a redshirt freshman. All this according to ESPN's Pete Thamel, who reports the bets were allegedly on Indiana to win and none were on a game in which Sorsby appeared. Texas Tech has announced that Sorsby is on indefinite leave and is entering a residential treatment program for gambling addiction. Here's Pete Thamel with more last night with SVP.
Simply put, Brendan Sorsby faces a significant uphill battle for his college eligibility. If you dive into the minutia of NCAA rules, as I did today, essentially when this formally emerges for he or any athlete, gambling accusations, they are immediately found ineligible. And the reinstatement process for any athlete who's found ineligible because of gambling is a thorny road. Even though Sorsby was redshirting that season and he did not play in any of the games that he bet on, that is the biggest thing that looms here. That's an obvious no-no that is very clear, very cut and dry.
All right, later today, former player and assistant coach Damon Jones is expected to become the first NBA player to plead guilty in the federal gambling case. Get more on what this means on the next SportsCenter, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Yes, it is the NFL's offseason, but overreacting never takes a day off. And that is why Dan Graziano, NFL insider extraordinaire, joins the program. Yes, one glaring omission. Jeff Saturday is not here, and the spotlight is entirely yours. The theme remains the same. Overreaction Tuesday. The Cardinals blew it by picking Jeremiah Love at number 3 overall. Dan, is this an overreaction or not an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction, and while I miss Jeff Saturday, I'm glad he's not here to strongly disagree with me. Look, Jeremiah Love might be a fantastic player. The problem is, by picking him 3rd in the draft, the Cardinals are going to pay him as if he's already a fantastic player. The way to build out your roster is to find value on rookie contracts at premium positions. This is going to be a rookie contract that right now pays him as the 7th highest paid running back in the league, which means the best case scenario is he plays like one of the best running backs in the league for the first 4 years of his career, and you pay him that way. You got to find bargains elsewhere. 3rd pick in the draft, when you're looking at overall team building, needs to be spent more wisely in terms of allocating resources overall.
All right, let's go to another pick that some people say was a reach. Dan, the Rams will regret taking Ty Simpson in the 1st round. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
I think it's an overreaction. The Rams are an organization that does deserve the benefit of the doubt, and they decided that they didn't need anything at that 13th pick as badly as they probably will need a quarterback in a year or two when Matthew Stafford decides to hang it up. This is a quarterback that the organization, the head coach Sean McVay, believe in very strongly. If he turns out to be an NFL starting quarterback, then we'll look back on this and say it was a good idea to pick him when they did. Rams don't expect to be picking high in next year's draft or really any draft anytime soon, so they felt like this was their chance to get a guy they believe in. Their roster seems set. There wasn't anybody at 13 that they felt was going to make the difference for them this year, so they take a shot on solving the most important position for years to come.
Before we let the Graz father go, we're going to run through some free agents who are still out there and where they could possibly end up. Dan, let's start with Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings, formerly of the 49ers, he's still out there as a free agent. There are some teams that come out of the draft still looking to maybe add a wide receiver. The Dolphins have been talked about with Juwan Jennings. The Rams, who obviously know him very well. Important to note, as of today, if you sign a free agent, he doesn't count against the compensatory draft pick formula for next year. So some of these veteran guys might find homes pretty soon. Stephon Diggs, who was released by the Patriots, a little bit of a different story, 32 years old and facing some off-field legal issues that are serious allegations he's dealing with right now. I think that probably leads teams to be a little more hesitant in terms of bringing him in until some of that's resolved. But he's a veteran who played well for the Steelers last year and could show up on a roster as we get a little bit closer to training camp.
It's Dan Graziano with the very latest for us, the Graz father. We appreciate it.